Your Majesty Fenghua, in half a day's time, we will be able to reach the border between the two countries. Everything is normal on the way here. It seems that you are overthinking things. Emperor Nan Xian said sarcastically. Yun Chujiu glanced at him. Your Majesty Nan Xian, why do I hear that you are not being hunted down? Are you feeling a little regretful? I didn't expect that at your age, you would actually like to be hunted down. Emperor Nan Xian was so angry that he was twitching. Just as he was about to argue, a guard rushed over and said, Your Majesties, there are more than a dozen flying spiritual artifacts approaching us. Emperor Nan Xian's head buzzed. He hurried to the window and looked outside. As expected, there were more than a dozen flying spiritual artifacts approaching quickly. The imperial court of the Jingmu kingdom must be the one who had so many flying spiritual artifacts. He was not naive enough to think that Emperor Mu Xian had sent people to deliver them something. If he had really sent them something, why would he send so many people? Sending one flying spiritual artifact was enough. Emperor Nan Xian and the other two immediately broke out in a cold sweat. They could not help but look at Empress Jiu, who looked calm behind them. Your Majesty Fenghua, look, what should we do? What else can we do? Run. Run at full speed. We can stall for time. As long as we cross the border, we will be safe, Yun Chujiu said calmly. Emperor Nan Xian and the other two didn't have any good ideas either. However, they were skeptical of Yun Chujiu's words that they would be safe once they crossed the border. The people of the Jingmu kingdom wouldn't care about the border. When the time came, they would definitely pursue and kill them. While everyone was still in shock, they discovered that there were flying spiritual artifacts flying over from the front, left, and right. It was obvious that they had come prepared. Emperor Nan Xian and the other two had a buzzing sound in their heads. It was over. They were dead meat. They glared at Yun Chujiu fiercely. Damn it, they would not let this girl off even if they were ghosts. If it were not for her, they would not have fallen to such a state. The voice of the crown prince, Jing Jiahong, came from one of the flying spirit tools. Miss Yun, I still have something to discuss with you. Come out and meet me. Yun Chujiu blinked her eyes and said helplessly, Your Highness, we are fated but not fated. Why do we have to meet again? It's only sad to see you. It's better that we never see each other again. Miss Yun, you have to see me today. Father still has something to discuss with you. Come back to Jing City with me. Jing Jiahong said coldly. Yun Chujiu knew that it was useless to talk anymore. She had to think of a way to escape. The flying spiritual artifacts of the Jingwood kingdom were everywhere. At this moment, she could only land on the ground and think of a way. Therefore, she ordered the guards, land quickly. As soon as the flying spiritual artifact lands, follow me and run for your lives. Emperor Nan Xian and the other two had already regarded Yun Chujiu as their backbone, so no one raised any objections. All of them prayed to the gods and Buddhas in their hearts, hoping that they could escape this disaster. The flying spiritual artifact was falling rapidly downward. Jing Jiahong and the others obviously didn't expect such a situation, so their reaction was half a beat slower. When they landed, they only saw Yun Chujiu and the others running away. Jing Jiahong sneered, they are really desperate. After passing this grassland, they will find the spirit exterminating valley. They can only enter but not leave. After all the living beings enter, they will only die. Your Highness, should we continue to chase? Yes. We will chase them all the way to the entrance of the spirit exterminating valley. Jing Jiahong said viciously. Jing Jiahong had thought that he would be able to take the East Phoenix country without a single soldier. However, he didn't expect that he would be interrupted by a bolt of lightning. After the initial panic, Mu Xian Emperor and the others realized that something was wrong. In the end, they decided to take the 4 emperors as hostages. They weren't afraid that their subjects wouldn't obey them. That was why Jing Jiahong had brought his troops to capture the 4 men. He had thought that it would be easy to capture the 4 men. However, he had not expected that they would escape after 2 days of chasing. However, they had lost their minds. They would definitely die if they entered the spirit-exterminating valley. As long as they died, the 4 countries would definitely fall into civil strife. At that time, the Jingwood Kingdom would be able to take control of the 4 countries under the pretext of mediation. It would be better than the previous plan. Jing Jiahong thought as he led his men to chase after Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou and the others ran as fast as they could. Emperor Nan Xian and the others once again witnessed Yun Chuzhou's ability to escape. Her spiritual power was obviously much lower than theirs, but she ran faster than them. What the hell? After running for a long time, they realized that the people of the Jingwood Kingdom had stopped chasing after them. Were they safe now? However, when they summoned their flying spiritual devices, they realized that they couldn't take off. Was it forbidden to fly here? Then, they realized that this valley was eerily quiet. Apart from the spiritual plants on the ground, there wasn't a single demonic beast. To be exact, there wasn't even a single demonic insect. Emperor Nan Xian panted heavily and said, "Your Majesty Fenghua, something is obviously wrong here. What should we do now?" Yun Chuzhou raised her eyebrows. "We will definitely die if we go out, but we might die if we stay here. What do you think we should do?" Emperor Nan Xian, "All right, just pretend that he didn't say anything." Yun Chuzhou continued, "Anyway, they won't catch up. Everyone, sit down and rest. Eat something. We will make our next move." Everyone was also exhausted. Hearing her words, they all sat on the ground. After a while, Yun Chuzhou looked at Emperor Nan Xian and the other 2 and said, "The people of the Jingmu Kingdom must be blocking us at the entrance of the valley. If we want to escape, we can only continue to go in and see if there is a way out. What do you think?" Emperor Nan Xian and the other 2 glared at Yun Chuzhou. Do they still have a choice now? They were now in the boat of this wretched girl. They couldn't get out even if they wanted to. Seeing that everyone agreed with her opinion, Yun Chuzhou waved her paw and said, "Let's go. Let's keep going. I want to see what's so scary in this valley. I'm a little excited just thinking about it." Emperor Nan Xian and the others were so angry that their teeth were itching. You pervert. They were about to die, but they were still excited. What was there to be excited about? Just as everyone was cursing in their hearts, they heard Yun Chuzhou pull her neck and shout, "Hey! Is anyone breathing? Is there anyone who can talk? Come out and talk." Yun Chuzhou shouted for a long time, but there was no movement, and there was nothing unusual. This fellow smiled and said to Emperor Nan Xian and the others, "The things in this valley probably saw that I'm devastatingly beautiful and kind-hearted, so they couldn't bear to harm me. You can count on me." Emperor Nan Xian and the other 2 were so angry that they were speechless. Could you be any more shameless? Count on you. Damn it, they were really unlucky for 8 lifetimes. The group proceeded deeper into the valley. Although nothing strange happened, everyone felt a strange sense of fear and unease. Yun Chuzhou looked around as she walked. The surrounding vegetation was lush and flourishing, but why was there not a single living thing? This situation was somewhat similar to the Hell Valley below the Heavenly Dao Cliff, but there were still some differences. The Hell Valley was filled with the same type of grass, and there were many different types of plants here. Moreover, she had seen them all in the ancient records, they were not demonic plants. However, this fellow was soon beaming with joy. This was because she discovered that many of the herbs here were earth grade or even heaven grade. It was estimated that there were few people here, so the age of the herbs was not short. It was truly a pleasant surprise. Emperor Nan Xian and the others were so angry that they were twitching. You really want money but not your life. At this time, you still have the mood to dig for herbs. Why are you staring at me? Do you think I'm wasting my time? No, no, these herbs are all good treasures. You can't buy them outside. My alchemy skills have always been good. When I refine the pills, they'll give you a few bottles, Yun Chujio said with a smile. The corners of Emperor Nanxian's and the other two's eyes twitched. Who didn't know that this guy was a waste of alchemy? They didn't dare to take the pills that she refined. If they ate them, they would probably die. Yun Chujio picked some herbs for a while and looked at the surrounding terrain. Both sides were steep cliffs that reached into the clouds. Although she could climb up, there was still no way out after climbing up. It seemed that she could only continue to go deeper into the valley. As time passed, the sky gradually darkened. Everyone felt even more uneasy, feeling that danger was coming soon. At this moment, the kitten in Yun Chujia's spiritual beast bag said uneasily, "Meow, my little heart is about to jump out. It seems like something is summoning me." Yun Chujio said disdainfully, "Forget it. What is summoning you, kitten?" The kitten said indignantly, "There is really something summoning me. If you don't believe it, then forget it. Forget it, I will continue to eat the dried fish." Yun Chujio pursed her lips and ignored it. The spiritual pet that Yun Chujio despised the most was this kitten. Other spiritual pets were more or less useful, but this kitten had not recovered to its original appearance. Its strength was so weak that it made people's hair stand on end. In one day, other than eating dried fish, it was also eating dried fish. It was a glutton. Everyone continued to walk forward and suddenly heard Prime Minister Sima's exclamation, "Oh my God, look." Everyone looked in the direction that Prime Minister Sima was pointing at and saw scattered white bones on the ground in front of them. There were human and demonic beasts. Under the moonlight, it looked especially horrifying. Emperor Nanxian wiped the cold sweat off his forehead. "Your Majesty Fenghua, do you think we should continue moving forward? If we don't move forward, are we going to retreat? You're not like little Lotus who has never killed before, what's there to be afraid of?" Yun Chujio took the lead and walked over. Emperor Nanxian and the others looked embarrassed. They were not afraid of these bones, but they were afraid of the danger behind them, all right? It was so embarrassing to be despised by a girl. The more they walked forward, the more bones there were on the ground. Yun Chujio even used a rolling pin to dig a few times and found that other than the bones, there was no storage ring or anything else. It seemed that the things had been taken away by someone. What on earth had done this? The kitten in the spiritual beast bag peeked and barked twice. "The thing that summoned me is nearby. Master, be careful." Yun Chujio did not take the kitten's words seriously before, but now she was a little concerned. She asked, "What do you think the thing that summoned you is? Is it looking for you with good intentions or malice?" Pan DN0VE1 COM. The kitten was silent for a moment, and then said, "I can't say for sure, but it's like someone deliberately seduced me with dried fish." Yun Chujio touched her chin. What exactly was it? What was it trying to do by seducing the kitten? The group finally passed through the bone area. Before they could breathe a sigh of relief, a white light flashed, and the group disappeared on the spot. Compared to the panic of Emperor Nanxian and the others, He Xinjiu was much calmer. After all, this fellow had experienced too many such things. She wanted to see what the hell was playing tricks on them. When they regained their sight, they found themselves in a stone hall. The ground was filled with mountains of spirit stones and storage rings. It was simply blinding. He Xinjia's eyes were shining. "Oh my, I'm rich. A blessed person did not need to be busy. He was just casually chased and killed, and he actually got such a great deal." One of the guards could not hold back his greed. He bent down and picked up an immortal sword. Before he could say anything, he fell to the ground with blood flowing out of his 7 orifices. Everyone was stunned. They could not help but feel fear. If they had reached out to take those things just now, wouldn't they have died as well? Could it be that these things were all highly poisonous? Yun Chujio twitched her mouth and stretched her neck as she shouted, "Which shameless person brought us in? Get the hell out here! How dare you play such a dirty trick like poisoning us? How shameless!" Emperor Nanxian and the others wished that they could shut Yun Chujio's mouth. "Oh my god, we are now fish meat on the chopping board. Aren't you courting death by being so arrogant?" Yun Chujio shouted a few times but there was no movement. The fellow rolled his eyes. "Since you won't come out, then don't blame me for being rude. I will accept all these things with a smile." As Yun Chujio spoke, she began to collect these things into her storage ring. As she did so, she said, "Isn't it just poisonous? What's there to be afraid of? I am an alchemy master. When I go back, I can simply concoct some medicinal powder to remove the poison on it. This time, I have struck it rich." Seeing that the things on the ground were decreasing at a speed visible to the naked eye, an angry voice said, "Little ant, stop. These things are all mine. Your grandmother's leg. Whoever snatches it will get it. Get lost." Yun Chujio ignored the voice and continued to keep putting things into her storage ring. It would be a waste not to take it. Finally, a shadow blocked in front of those things and said angrily, "Little ant, you are courting death." Yun Chujio looked up at the huge shadow in front of her. It looked weird, but it looked like the kitten before it transformed. When Yun Chujio was looking at it, she heard Prime Minister Sima's cry, Pai Xiu, this is the godly beast Pai Xiu." Emperor Nanxian and the others also said, "Oh my god, it's really the godly beast Pai Xiu. No wonder there are so many treasures here. So this is Pai Xiu's cave abode." Yun Chujio was stunned at first, then she laughed out loud, So, you are the unlucky guy without fart and yen. Ha ha ha. I'm dying of laughter. When the shadow heard the words of Prime Minister Sima and the others, it was still a little smug. However, when it heard Yun Chujio's words, it was so angry that it almost fainted. The thing that it hated the most in its life was that incident. It did not expect that this wretched girl would actually say such a vulgar thing. She simply deserved to die. The shadow stretched out its claw and slapped Yun Chujio, who was laughing non-stop. Yun Chujio suddenly dodged Pai Xiu's claw to the side and shouted, "Pan DN0VE1 CM wait. I haven't explained it clearly, why are you so anxious? Don't tell me you don't dare to talk to me anymore." Pai Xiu snorted, "Why wouldn't I dare? Since you dare, then don't make a move first. Let's have a chat," Yun Chujio said with a smile. Yun Chujio was not afraid of this so-called Pai Xiu at all. As long as it was a soul, this guy was not afraid. Anyway, she had Xiong Qi and Tao Wu, what was there to be afraid of? "Little stingy, let me ask you, all the demonic beasts in this valley have been eaten by you?" Little stingy. Emperor Nanxian and the others' heads buzzed. "Oh my god, aren't you mentioning the pot that is boiling? If you call this Pai Xiu a little stingy, it will definitely fly into a rage again. Aren't you looking for trouble? Miser?" Pai Xiu repeated unhappily. Emperor Nanxian and the others thought, it's over. This time, Pai Xiu will definitely go on a killing spree. At first, they thought that this girl had come up with a plan to delay the war, but who would have thought that she was looking for death? "I am the most miser in the world. How can I be called miser? You are insulting me," Pai Xiu said in an unhappy tone. "Everyone, the most stingy existence in the world. Is this good enough? Did you eat all those demonic beasts and cultivators?" Yun Chujio said smoothly. Pai Xiu was obviously very satisfied with the new title. He said proudly, "Of course. Pai Xiu's land has access but no exit. Access but no exit. This rule is really great. This has always been my rule. Well, we can be considered to have the same idea. Once it's in my hands, you can forget about going out again. Yun Chuzhou said with sparkling eyes. Pai Xiu immediately became excited and didn't bother to argue anymore. He said excitedly, "You think so too? I didn't expect you to be so knowledgeable. Those idiots all said that I was greedy. Bah! This is called, thrifty." Yun Chuzhou said eagerly. Yes, this is called thrifty. You little girl are really not bad. You are the most knowledgeable human that I have ever seen in my life. Since you think the same as me, I won't kill you today. You can stay and talk to me in the future. As for the others, don't even think about living. Emperor Nanxian and the others felt as if their hearts were bickering with dogs. That girl only said a few words about being stingy and didn't need to die. They had to die. Was there something wrong with Pai Xiu's head? Emperor Nanxian and the rest looked at Yun Chuzhou pitifully. She wouldn't leave them to die, right? Yun Chuzhou glanced at Emperor Nanxian and the other two with a faint smile, then, she turned to look at Pai Xiu. I still have a lot of things to do. I can't stay with you. Also, these people are with me. They can't stay either. Pai Xiu was instantly enraged when he heard Yun Chuzhou's words. However, he rolled his huge eyes and continued, "It's not impossible for you to leave if you want to. You can leave if you keep little Pai Xiu here." A little Pai Xiu? Yun Chuzhou was stunned and said with a blank face, "Are you mistaken? I don't have a little Pai Xiu." Pai Xiu said with disdain, "Don't play tricks on me. Your spiritual beast bag clearly has the aura of a Pai Xiu, and it is the aura of a Pai Xiu cub. As long as you hand it over, I will let you go immediately." A thought flashed through Yun Chuzhou's mind. Could that little Pai Xiu be a cat cub? Yun Chuzhou took out the cat cub and said, "The little Pai Xiu you mentioned can't be my cat cub, right? This is a fire-breathing cat cub. Are you mistaken?" Emperor Nanxian and the others saw the cat cub in Yun Chuzhou's hand and the corner of their eyes twitched. This was clearly a fire-breathing cat cub. How could it be Pai Xiu? Pai Xiu said disdainfully, "Ignorant human. Why does a fire-eating Xiu kitten have horns on its head? It is clearly a fire-eating Xiu kitten that has awakened the ancestral bloodline. No, it is already a Pai Xiu kitten now." Yun Chuzhou did not have time to react. The kitten said with its spiritual sense, "Why isn't it a Qilin? Why is there no Pai Xiu? It must be a mistake. I am a Qilin, I am not a Pai Xiu." Yun Chuzhou, according to the records, the fire-eating Xiu's blood was mixed with the blood of Pai Xiu, Qilin, White Tiger, and many other divine beasts. However, wasn't this cat cub too confident? Was it so sure that it would awaken the ancestral bloodline? Did it dislike the Pai Xiu bloodline? Just as Yun Chuzhou was stunned, the Pai Xiu said, "If you keep it, I will send you guys away. Otherwise, after you die, this little Pai Xiu will still be mine." Yun Chuzhou blinked her eyes and put the kitten away, then asked, "What do you want to do with my kitten?" The Pai Xiu's eyes flickered, "Of course, I want to teach it to grow up." "What can a human like you teach it?" "It can only grow up quickly by following me." Yun Chuzhou pouted, "You say it nicely. But why do I feel like you're not telling the truth? Why do I feel like you're trying to possess it?" Pai Xiu's expression froze, then, he said angrily, "So what if I am? I'm telling you, little girl, if you don't hand over little Pai Xiu, he'll take your possession. Although your heavenly thunder spirit root can't compare to little Pai Xiu, it's still okay." Yun Chuzhou revealed a cold smile on the corner of her mouth. As she said, this Pai Xiu was not that kind-hearted. However, why were the nine-tailed fox, phoenix, and Pai Xiu that she met so shameless and vicious? Logically speaking, weren't divine beasts supposed to be the embodiment of justice? A thought flashed through Yun Chuzhou's mind, but when she thought about it again, she couldn't remember. Pai Xiu said again, "Stupid girl, do you agree or not?" Yun Chujio raised her eyebrows and looked at it. "Do you think him an idiot? Even if I hand over the kitten, you won't let us go, right? Because you're afraid that we'll expose your hiding place, so you'll definitely kill us to silence us. You're smart. Since you've seen through it, then die." Pai Xiu saw that Yun Chujio had already seen through its intentions, so it decided not to act anymore. It swiped at Yun Chujio with its claws. Yun Chujio leaped to the side with all her might, then shouted at Emperor Nan Xian and the others, "What are you still standing there for? Beat it up." Emperor Nan Xian and the others naturally wouldn't just sit around and wait for their deaths. Hence, they fought with Pai Xiu's remnant soul. In less than 15 minutes, Emperor Nan Xian and the others couldn't hold on any longer. They thought to themselves, "It's over." They never dreamed that they would die at Pai Xiu's hands in the end. Pai Xiu's face was full of pride. They were just a bunch of ants. It was effortless to deal with them. At this moment, Yun Chujio said with a smile, "Pai Xiu, do you think you are very powerful? Today, I will let you see what a surprise is." Pai Xiu pursed his lips. This darn girl was probably scared to death. Who was she? Shameless. However, when he saw the two huge creatures released by Yun Chujio, he was instantly dumbfounded. Tao Wu and Xiong Qi. Why were these two malefactors with her? Xiong Qi grinned and said obsequiously, "Little fairy, you dare to have designs on Pai Xiu. You are too evil. I love you so much now. Little fairy, you are the most shameless, and evil person in this world, right? Scram. If you don't know how to speak, then don't speak. No one treats you as a mute." Yun Chujio glared at Xiong Qi. Xiong Qi had a look of enjoyment on his face. "Little fairy, if you scold me one more time, no, if you scold me 1,000 times, 10,000 times, I feel so comfortable." Yun Chujio was already speechless at this idiot. Emperor Nan Xian and the others were already dumbfounded. They were already shocked when Pai Xiu said that the fire-breathing cat cub was Pai Xiu's cub. Later, he said that Yun Chujio had a heavenly thunder spirit root. They were also shocked because they had always thought that Yun Chujio had a fire spirit root. Now, this little girl actually released the remnant souls of Xiong Qi and Tao Wu, two ancient ferocious beasts. Oh God! How was this possible? Putting aside the question of why Xiong Qi and Tao Wu were with her, once the remnant souls of the beasts appeared, they would immediately attract heavenly lightning. How could she be safe? No, Emperor Nan Xian and the rest suddenly remembered that ever since this little girl arrived at the towering sky continent, there had been a few earth-shattering lightning strikes. Could it be that those heavenly lightning strikes were to strike the remnant souls of Xiong Qi and Tao Wu? But even so, how could she be fine? Could it be that they were all using flying spiritual devices to carry the heavenly lightning? But how could such a huge commotion go unnoticed? Just as Emperor Nan Xian and the rest were filled with questions, they heard Yun Chujio say to Tao Wu and Xiong Qi, "You too, kill this Pai Xiu. It actually dared to have designs on my spiritual pet. It's simply courting death." Xiong Qi immediately said, "It's a piece of cake. This fart, Yan's attack power is the weakest among the divine beasts, we can kill it very quickly." Pai Xiu's face revealed a panicked expression. It quickly formed a seal, wanting to teleport Yun Chujio and the rest out. Who would have thought that the human girl said crisply, "Don't let it form a seal, kill it." As she said that, Xiong Qi and Tao Wu had already pounced over. Pai Xiu was so regretful that his intestines were turning green. As he fought, he shouted, "Little fairy, I was wrong. I shouldn't have thought about your spiritual pets. I'll let you two out now. You tell them to stop." Yun Chujio said plainly, "If you don't get rid of the root of the problem, there will definitely be trouble in the future." Do you think I'm that stupid to believe you? I gave you a chance, but you didn't cherish it. Are you regretting now? It's too late. Pai Xiu said exasperatedly, Good. Good. Stupid girl, don't think that you will win today. It's not certain who will win. Yun Chujiu ignored Pai Xiu. She raised her hand and was about to release the piglets of spiritual energy. Then, she would let De Hua appear. This way, she could help Tao Wu and Qiong Qi. Who would have thought that when she raised her hand, she did not release the group of cute piglets of spiritual energy. Instead, she released a De Hua that had shrunk countless times. Yun Chujia's heart was like a dog that was bickering. Why did it suddenly change? Could it be that because her spiritual power had leveled up, De Hua had changed? According to common sense, shouldn't it be getting stronger and stronger? Why did this De Hua become smaller and smaller? Just as Yun Chujiu was in a daze, she heard that idiot Qiong Qi was laughing so hard that he almost suffocated. Ha! Ha! It actually became like this? Oh my god, this is so funny. Ha ha ha. I can't take it anymore, Tao Wu, hold on for a while, I want to go to the side and laugh for a while. Yun Chujia's mood was complicated to begin with. Now that the idiot Qiong Qi was laughing so hard that he did not even care about the battle, she scolded angrily, You dumbass. Shut up now. Otherwise, I will never let you out. Qiong Qi shrunk his neck, he said humbly, Little fairy, you can't treat me like this just because I made a mistake once. It really became like this all of a sudden. It made me a little. Ha ha ha, I can't take it anymore. I can't look at it anymore. Seeing that Qiong Qi had joined the battle once again, Yun Chujiu lowered her head to look at the mini De Hua floating in the air. The sadness in her heart was simply like a river flowing against the current. Although De Hua looked a little ugly, her combat strength was outstanding. Now that she had become like this, how could she act cool in the future? For some unknown reason, the people of Towering Sky Continent could not transform into spiritual beasts. Therefore, He Xinjiu had always treated De Hua as her trump card. Who would have thought that De Hua would become like this now? De Hua was still fine when she broke through the previous time. This was simply too much. Just as Yun Chujiu was weeping in her heart, she saw De Hua raise his small head and look at her with disdain, as if he was looking at an idiot. Yun Chujiu was immediately enraged. You De Hua. You actually dare to look down on me? Although you were originally ugly, your attack power was at least strong enough. But now, you actually turned into this small depraved appearance. This is simply infuriating. Tell me, how did you become like this? I know, you are not De Hua. You must be De Hua's illegitimate child. The purple color on De Hua's body quickly turned black. Then, her body began to grow bigger rapidly. A pair of wings even grew on her back as she glared at Yun Chujiu. Yun Chujiu shrunk her neck and said embarrassedly, So you can grow bigger. Looking at you, you seem to be even more powerful. Hee, I was just teasing you. If you want to vent your anger, beat up that Pai Xiu. It's all its fault. Let's go. Dear De Hua. Brave De Hua. I have high hopes for you. Yun Chujiu saw that De Hua had finally shifted his gaze to the Pai Xiu, and she secretly wiped away her cold sweat. Damn it, she was scared half to death by her own spiritual beast. There was really no one else. Emperor Nanxian and the others were already dumbfounded. The people of the Towering Sky Continent were not able to transform into spiritual beasts, but they did not think it mattered. After all, their spiritual attacks were much more powerful than spiritual beasts. However, when they saw Yun Chujiu release this powerful and small pig with wings, they were truly shocked. This spiritual beast could actually change its size and color. What shocked them the most was that it could release pressure. How was this possible? Emperor Nan Xian and the others could not help but look at Yun Chuzhou. How many more secrets did this little girl have? No wonder she became the emperor of the East Phoenix Kingdom in just a few months after arriving at the towering Sky Continent. It turned out that not only did she have a belly full of evil tricks, she also had so many trump cards. They had really underestimated her. After De Hua joined the battle, Pai Xiu was clearly unable to hold on any longer. It was now regretting it to death. If it had known that this wretched girl was so perverted, it would not have brought them in no matter what. But now, it was easy to invite the gods, but difficult to send the gods. It was most likely going to die today. At this moment, De Hua's figure began to dim and then disappeared. Pai Xiu was overjoyed. Without that damned pig, it might still have a chance of survival. Who would have thought that Yun Chuzhou would raise her hand and release that mini purple pig again? Yun Chuzhou said obsequiously, "Dear De Hua, go. Beat that Pai Xiu to death." Then, she was stunned to find that De Hua had actually rushed up and disappeared with a slap from Pai Xiu. Yun Chuzhou, so it turned out that her spiritual beast had to turn black to be powerful? She only had one sentence in her heart: fuck, I don't know if I should say it or not. Fuck, this is simply a scam. Pai Xiu was obviously a little dumbfounded too. Why did it suddenly become powerful? It actually dissipated that thing with a slap. Pai Xiu immediately felt extremely heroic. The more he fought, the braver he became. He actually had the upper hand faintly. This was because Pai Xiu's remnant soul was much more solid than Tao Wu's and Xiong Qi's. Hence, his strength was slightly stronger than the other two. Xiong Qi immediately complained, "Little fairy, what are you doing? What's the use of letting that little guy rush up? Let him transform." Yun Chuzhou glared at Xiong Qi. She did not know that she had to let De Hua transform. Damn it, there was no one else who could meet such a spiritual beast. Yun Chuzhou had no choice but to release De Hua again. Then, she said with disdain, "De Hua, why are you so useless? It's fine if you look like a pig, but why is your brain also a pig's brain? Can't you be smarter?" "I just have no choice. Otherwise, I will let Xiong Qi be my spiritual beast." Xiong Qi grinned and said flatteringly, "Little fairy, yes, you are right. I am much stronger than it. I am the bright moon in the sky, and it is the mud on the ground." Before Xiong Qi finished his words, De Hua's body turned black, and then his body began to grow bigger. First, he glared at Yun Chuzhou fiercely, and then at Xiong Qi. Xiong Qi trembled, he looked at De Hua with disdain. "Why are you looking at me with such hot eyes? Don't tell me you have fallen in love with me. Let me tell you, I only have little fairy in my heart. Don't think about me." The corner of Yun Chuzhou's eyes twitched violently. She said to De Hua, who had turned black, "De Hua, that Pai Xiu called you a good-for-nothing just now. Hurry up and kill it." Pai Xiu, who was caught in the crossfire, it clearly did not say anything, all right. De Hua did not care whether Pai Xiu had said anything or not. He was full of anger now. He could not beat Yun Chuzhou or Xiong Qi. Naturally, he vented his anger on Pai Xiu. Pai Xiu was really unlucky. After being beaten up by De Hua and the other three, the last three started to bite Pai Xiu's remnant soul. Xiong Qi said to De Hua while eating, "You are a spirit beast now, don't waste this Pai Xiu's remnant soul. Go and stay away." De Hua ignored Xiong Qi and continued to eat Pai Xiu's remnant soul. Pai Xiu struggled and cried a few times in the beginning, but then it stopped moving completely. Xiong Qi and Tao Wu's figures were obviously more corporeal than before. It seemed that the remnant soul of the divine beast was indeed useful in repairing them. De Hua did not change much. After eating, her gaze fell on the pile of poisonous spirit stones and spirit tools on the ground. She opened her mouth and began to eat those things. Yun Chujio was a little confused at first. Spiritual beasts could still eat spiritual stones and spiritual tools. After a few dozen breaths, this guy jumped and scolded, "De Hua. Shut up. These are all mine." De Hua ignored her and ate even faster. Yun Chujio quickly put the things into her storage ring. She was afraid that De Hua would eat all of them. Emperor Nan Xian and the others did not have enough brains right now. Their minds were filled with confusion about who they were, where they were, and what they were doing. Fuck. A spiritual beast could still eat? Was it because they were lacking in experience, or was this little girl's spiritual beast a pervert? Xiong Qi, who was watching from the side, did not mind the fuss and said, "Little fairy, you're really unlucky. That fellow is even more gluttonous than Pai Xiu. You probably won't be able to afford to raise it in the future." De Hua turned his head and gave Xiong Qi a fierce look. Xiong Qi curled his lips. "You are a foodie to begin with, and you don't allow others to talk about it. Although I don't know how you became like this, the world changes easily, and your nature will never change. You are destined to be a foodie." Yun Chujio noticed that Xiong Qi obviously knew something, so she asked, "Xiong Qi, what did you mean just now? What was De Hua originally? Isn't it that infamous Tao Tai? Little fairy, don't you know? I thought you knew." Xiong Qi said. Yun Chujio's head buzzed. The pretty boy's spiritual beast was an ice dragon, and the black chicken's head was a spiritual skull. Why was her spiritual beast a glutton? She knew the name of Tao Tai. It was one of the ancient fierce beasts, and there was nothing that it didn't eat. When it was extremely hungry, it was simply desperate for food. Therefore, it was said that countless humans and demonic beasts had died because of its appetite. Her spiritual beast was actually the #1 glutton in the world. While Yun Chujio was in a daze, a large portion of the spiritual stones and spiritual tools on the ground had been eaten by De Hua. This fellow was so angry that it struck De Hua with a purple lightning bolt. Everyone was dumbfounded. There was actually someone who would attack their own spirit beast. What kind of weirdo was this? You shut your mouth. You're not allowed to eat anymore. If you want to eat, I'll feed you demon beast meat. Yun Chujio said in a flustered manner. De Hua acted as if it did not hear her and continued eating. Xiong Qi covered his mouth and said, "Little fairy, I have to tell you something interesting. This glutton is now a spirit beast, so it can only eat spirit stones and spirit tools. It will not eat demon beast meat. And it seems that if you want it to become stronger quickly, you can only feed it spirit stones and spirit tools. The more it eats, the faster it will become stronger." When Yun Chujio heard Xiong Qi's words, it was like a bolt from the blue. She couldn't help but feel sad. She thought that she was already a little rich lady. Who would have thought that she would need to burn money to carry the heavenly thunder and to get a spirit beast? According to this foodie's appetite, wouldn't she have to return to liberation, and the future? Oh my God! Why did you have to give her a glutton? Why was that? Yun Chujio stared at De Hua, who was eating crazily with a hopeless expression. Her heart ached terribly. She looked at it for a while, then she asked Xiong Qi, "I've seen Tao Tai's appearance in the ancient books. It looks very fierce. Although De Hua now has a pair of wings, its appearance is clearly that of a pig. Are you mistaken? Why do I feel that it should be called the flying pig? Flying pig? Ha ha ha. Emma, it's so funny." Xiong Qi laughed for a while before continuing, "Little fairy, I'm also puzzled. How did it turn into a pig? Perhaps it's because it can eat like a pig. Ha ha ha, I can't take it anymore. I need to laugh for a while." De Hua glared at Xiong Qi. However, it was clear that spirit stones and spirit tools were more attractive to it, so it did not go looking for trouble with Xiong Qi. Yun Chujio did not care about De Hua, who was eating non-stop. She glanced at Emperor Nanxian and the others from the corner of her eyes. Her heart sank. All of her trump cards had been known by these people. She had to think of a way. There was no heart demon oath in the sky-high continent. Although she could control them with poison, it was inevitable that they would have rebellious thoughts. What should she do? Yun Chujia's eyes lit up as she thought about it. She gave Qiong Qi and Tao Wu a look. Although the two of them did not sign a contract with Yun Chujio, the two of them quickly understood what she meant. The two of them suddenly attacked Emperor Nanxian and the others. Emperor Nanxian and the others were stunned by the series of changes. Moreover, they were injured. How could they be their opponents? Almost in an instant, they were knocked out. Qiong Qi said flatteringly, "Little fairy, you are getting worse and worse. Are you going to kill them to silence them? How do you want them to die? Do you want me to strangle them to death or slap them to death or stomp them to death?" Yun Chujio ignored this idiot and pulled out the nightmare beast that was reading a script. "Curly hair, we've a dream for them. Let them think that they have worked together to kill Pai Shio's remnant soul. Erase everything about the cat cub and me. Let them think that it was just an illusion. Weave it more realistically for me. Otherwise, don't read the script in the future." The Meng Yanshou saw Qiong Qi, Tao Wu, and De Hua who was still eating and drinking. It was extremely obedient and nodded its head hurriedly. Although this fellow was also a ferocious beast, it was still slightly inferior to Tao Wu and the rest. Hence, it could not help but feel a little guilty and was afraid of being taught a lesson. Meng Yanshou felt that he was living a cowardly life. Ever since he followed this black-hearted little girl, it seemed that anyone could step on him. When he returned to his original form, he would definitely teach them a lesson. Yun Chujio did not know about the rich inner activities of the Meng Yanshou. When the Meng Yanshou was weaving a dream for Emperor Nanxian and the rest, she kept Qiong Qi and Tao Wu into the ancient jade bottle. Fortunately, De Hua had finally disappeared. Yun Chujio looked at the few remaining spiritual stones and spiritual tools on the ground and gritted her teeth in anger. She took some from her storage ring and placed them on the ground to prevent Emperor Nanxian and the rest from suspecting her. Yun Chujio checked again and then remembered something. Why was there no Pai Shio's skeleton and fur in it? Pan de N0ve1. She could only release the idiot Qiong Qi and ask it what was going on. Qiong Qi curled its lips. Pai Shio only comes in and doesn't come out. How can it leave its skeleton and fur to others? It's probably hidden somewhere or simply destroyed. Yun Chujio nodded her head regretfully. Then, she thought of a crucial question. Pai Shio was the one who brought them in. Now that Pai Shio was dead, how were they going to get out? Qiong Qi looked helpless and said, "Little fairy, there's nothing I can do. Think of a way yourself." PN0V1. At this time, Meng Yanshou signaled that Emperor Nanxian and the others were about to wake up. Yun Chujio had no choice but to put it and Qiong Qi away. She made some red juice on her body and then lay on the ground, pretending to be dead. Emperor Nanxian and the others woke up one after another. They sat up in a daze and looked around in confusion. When they saw the poisoned guard, the poisoned spirit stones, and the spirit weapons, Meng Yanshou's dream immediately filled their minds. Yun Chujio also woke up at this time. Then, she shouted with a terrified face, "Oh God, I was scared to death. That Pai Shio wants to eat us. Fortunately, we worked together to kill that bastard." Emperor Nanxian shook his head. For a moment, he felt that his mind was a little confused. Why did he seem to see this little girl release two fierce beasts? And her spiritual beast was Tao Tai. That's right, it was an illusion. How could this little girl have an ancient fierce beast? This was simply a joke. Prime Minister Sima was the first to react. He ran to Yun Chujia's side and asked with concern, "Your Majesty, are you all right? I have some healing pills here, please take them quickly. Prime Minister Sima took out a porcelain bottle and poured out 2 pills and handed them to Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou did not hesitate and threw them into her mouth to feed the Guai Chao. Emperor Nan Xian and the others also began to take the pills. They had originally suffered flesh wounds, so they quickly recovered by more than half. Everyone began to look for an exit. Yun Chuzhou said shamelessly, "These spirit stones and spirit tools are all highly poisonous. I reckon none of you want them. Then I won't be polite. Your Majesty. Be careful. Those things are all poisonous." Prime Minister Sima hurriedly stopped her. "Don't worry, I'm only using my spiritual power to store them into my storage ring. I won't touch them." He Xinjiu said with a smile. Prime Minister Sima looked at Yun Chuzhou putting the things into her storage ring and couldn't help but frown. Why was this scene so familiar? It seemed like the illusion in the dream was like this. Everyone knocked around, but they couldn't find an exit. Could it be that this stone hall was just like that Pai Xiu, only entering and not leaving? Emperor Nan Xian and the others were very anxious. Only Empress Jiu was leisurely and calm. Emperor Nan Xian said unhappily, "Your Majesty Fenghua, your heart is really big. Aren't you afraid of being trapped here forever?" Yun Chuzhou said leisurely, "Anyway, we will find the exit sooner or later. What's the rush? It's safer to go out later. It's best to let Jing Jiahong think that we are already dead. Only then will they relax. Otherwise, even if we can avoid Jing Jiahong's siege, we won't be able to pass through the border." Emperor Nan Xian snorted coldly, "You say it so easily. What if we never get out? If we can't get out, then we can't get out. Anyway, I brought a lot of delicious food. We won't starve to death in a short time." Yun Chuzhou said thoughtlessly. Emperor Nan Xian was so angry that he kept twitching. He ignored her and continued to look for the exit. Yun Chuzhou was actually anxious too. However, if the leader of a team was anxious, it would undoubtedly have a negative impact on the entire team. That was why this guy acted as if it didn't matter. Yun Chuzhou frowned and thought for a while. Then, she gritted her teeth and said, "It seems that we can only build our own exit. Come on, let's dig a hole together happily." Emperor Nan Xian and the others looked at Yun Chuzhou as if they were looking at an idiot. Dig a hole. This was an extremely stupid method. This was because they did not know where the stone hall was located. If it was in the middle of the mountain or deep underground, how long would they have to dig? Seeing that no one moved, Yun Chuzhou sneered, "Why? Do you have any better ideas besides digging? If not, then work together and start digging. One day, we will see the light of day again." When everyone heard this, they were instantly terrified. That's right. Now, besides digging, there were no other good ideas. As Yun Chuzhou's die-hard fan, Prime Minister Sima naturally took the lead and slapped a stone wall. However, the stone wall was undamaged. Prime Minister Sima's face turned red and he slapped a few more times, but the stone wall was still undamaged. Emperor Nan Xian sneered, "Don't waste your energy. The stones used in this ancient cave abode must be extraordinary and are naturally very strong. Therefore, it's impossible to dig a hole." Emperor Nan Xian's voice suddenly stopped because he saw that Empress Jiu easily cut a hole in the stone wall with a large kitchen knife. It was as easy as cutting tofu. After Yun Chuzhou cut the stone wall, she said, "My task is completed. The rest is up to you. Start digging. It would be best if you have a spiritual pet that is good at digging holes." Emperor Nan Xian and the others, "Your task is completed. You are slacking off after cutting such a small piece. But there is no other way. Who asked her to have that broken kitchen knife in her hand?" No one knew where that broken kitchen knife came from, but it was actually so sharp. Because the hole could only accommodate one person, everyone began to take turns digging the hole. Yun Chujio jumped and cursed, "Are you guys stupid? You have to dig up. Otherwise, you won't be able to get out even if you dig until you die." Although everyone was furious, they had no way to refute. Who asked them to be stupid? Seeing that these people were digging too slowly, Yun Chujio had no choice but to bring out the Rabbit Sky Group and Xiao Hei. She curled her lips and said, "Get out of the way. Let my spiritual pet come." When Emperor Nan Xian and the others saw Yun Chujio's few rabbits, they were all dumbfounded. What were these things? This was a rabbit. A rabbit had 5 legs. And they had such long hair. And they had 2 heads. The last one seemed to be a hamster without a tail. Although these spiritual pets were good at digging holes, their spiritual power was too low, right? How could they dig faster than them? It was impossible, right? Everyone had the attitude of giving it a try, and then they realized that although these exotic spiritual pets had low spiritual power, their digging speed was faster than their combined speed. Emperor Nan Xian and the others could only help to put away the soil that they had dug up so as not to block the tunnel. When Emperor Nan Xian saw the rabbits, he could not hold back his curiosity and asked Empress Jiu, "Your Majesty Fenghua, where did you get these rabbits? What kind of demonic beasts are these? It seems that there is no record of them in the ancient records." Yun Chujio showed a proud smile. "They all became like this after eating the pills that I refined. You know, my alchemy skills are very good. I fed all the pills I refined to them, and then they became like this. If your Majesty Nanxian is interested, he'll give you a few pills to try." Emperor Nan Xian shook his head like a rattledrum. He shuddered at the thought of his body covered in long hair, 2 heads, and 5 legs. Yun Chujio pursed her lips. "Forget it, you'll regret it in the future." Emperor Nan Xian thought to himself, he would only regret it if he was crazy. He would rather die than eat the pills she refined. 2 days later, everyone finally saw the light of day again. If it weren't for their status, Emperor Nan Xian and the other 2 would have hugged their heads and cried. Fuck. It was really not easy. They were finally out. Everyone took out a map and compared it with Bailis. They realized that they were already hundreds of miles away from the previous valley. Everyone was surprised and happy. This way, they could completely escape from Jing Jiahong's pursuit. They didn't dare to delay. They sat on a flying spirit tool that Yun Chujio bought from Jing City and headed straight for the border between the East Phoenix Kingdom and the Jingwood Kingdom. Everyone was both excited and a little nervous. They would reach the border in an hour and a half at most. They didn't know how many troops the Jingwood Kingdom had deployed there. Would they be able to pass through safely? There was a formation set up at the border to prevent flying. Everyone had no choice but to land the flying spirit tool a few miles away from the border checkpoint. They hid in a dense forest and looked into the distance. They saw hundreds of soldiers constantly patrolling the area. Not to mention them, even an ant would not be able to climb over. Emperor Nan Xian lowered his voice and said, "Your Majesty Fenghua, what should we do next? We will be sending ourselves to our deaths if we go forward." Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said, "I have a way to get out, but you have to agree to one condition of mine." Emperor Nan Xian was so angry that he almost vomited blood. What time was it? This little girl was still making conditions. What condition? "Your Majesties, as you can see, the Wellwood Kingdom is ambitious and has made up its mind to annex our 4 kingdoms. So now we can only turn the passive into the active and take the Wellwood Kingdom into our own hands," Yun Chujio said with a smile. Emperor Nan Xian and the other 2 were so scared that they almost sat on the ground. Are you crazy? Take the Jingmu Kingdom. We are only a 3rd-class kingdom. How can we defeat a 2nd-class kingdom like the Jingmu Kingdom? So what if we are a 2nd-class kingdom? You have seen it for yourself. The people of the Jingmu Kingdom are indeed stronger than us, but they are not that strong. Let's take them by surprise and take down the 6 kingdoms first. Even if we are slightly weaker than the Jingmu kingdom, we still have the strength to fight them. Besides, I'm here. What are you afraid of? Han DN0VE1 CM Emperor Nanshan and the other 2 were speechless. After we take down the Jingmu kingdom, we will divide the territory equally. At that time, even though we are still not a second-class country, no second-class country would dare to underestimate our alliance. Wouldn't we be more carefree than we are now? Don't think that you are lucky. You think that the Jingmu kingdom will only deal with our East Phoenix kingdom. From the pursuit this time, it can be seen that Emperor Mu Xian has no intention of letting you go. Alright, stop wasting time. I know that you have already agreed. Come, sign on this 4-nation alliance. Remember to seal the jade seal. As Yun Chuzhou spoke, she took out a contract from her storage ring that had long been drawn up by Prime Minister Sima. Emperor Nanshan and the other 2 felt as if their hearts were going to explode. Why did they feel that they had been tricked? Why did they feel as though this guy had planned it all along? Could they not sign it? Could they say that they did not bring the jade seal with them? Yun Chuzhou pointed at the soldiers at the border and then made a hand gesture to slit their throats. The 3 of them had no choice but to obediently sign the 4-nation alliance agreement of mutual benefit and mutual benefit. Emperor Nanshan and the other 2 took a while to recover from their grief and anger. Then, they asked unhappily, Your Majesty Fenghua, the contract has been signed. How are we going to get there? Yun Chuzhou curled her lips and smiled mysteriously. Enjoy the show. Emperor Nanshan and the others did not understand what was going on. They saw Yun Chuzhou take out a voice transmission talisman and say something to someone. Then, she stared at the distant border with a smile. Emperor Nanshan and the others could only stretch their necks and look around. What kind of show was this? In less than an hour, they saw dust billowing in the distance. There were over 10,000 people surging from the territory of the Dongfeng kingdom to a place not far from the border. The leader was Yun Jichen. The general of the Jingmu kingdom who was stationed at the border was called Shang Liangxin. When he saw Yun Jichen bringing so many soldiers over, he asked in bewilderment, What is the meaning of this? Do you want to invade our Jingmu kingdom? PA-NDNOV1 Yun Jichen cupped his fists at him. General, you have misunderstood. I just received a voice transmission talisman from my Majesty and said that she would arrive at the border soon, so I came to welcome her. Shang Liangxin couldn't help but sneer in his heart. He had received a voice transmission talisman from the Crown Prince a long time ago. The female emperor of Zephyr Nation and the other 3 monarchs had entered the Spirit Extermination Valley and were most likely dead. How could they have arrived here safely? The people of the East Foam Kingdom were simply lying through their teeth. They were probably trying to get information about the Zephyr female emperor. Thus, Shang Liangxin put on a fake smile and said, This general has heard that the 4 monarchs are still our Jingmu kingdom's capital city as guests. Please return. Otherwise, don't blame us for being impolite. Yun Jichen frowned. Is that so? His Majesty did say that we will reach the border soon. General, please make it easy for us to wait a little longer. As Yun Jichen spoke, he transferred a large amount of spirit stones to Shang Liangxin. Shang Liangxin accepted the benefits. Immediately, his attitude changed. Alright, in that case, you can wait here. However, this general will give you at most 2 hours, more than 2 hours. You must leave, or else you will be suspected of invading my Jingmu kingdom. Yun Jichen nodded repeatedly and asked the soldiers behind him to bring over a lot of food and wine. He said with a smile, This is a small token from our East Phoenix kingdom to relieve everyone's fatigue. The soldiers of the Jingmu kingdom were used to eating and drinking, so they naturally wouldn't be polite. They ate and drank in groups of 3 to 5, and only a dozen soldiers symbolically walked back and forth at the border. Seeing this, Yun Chuzhou lowered her voice and said, I'm going to count to 3. You guys charge forward as fast as you can. As long as you cross the border, the people of the Jingmu kingdom won't be able to make things difficult for us. Do you hear me? Emperor Nan Xian and the others nodded repeatedly. No wonder this little girl said that they would be safe as long as they crossed the border. It turned out that she had already arranged heavy troops here. The reason why she didn't let Yun Jichen lead his troops to rescue them was probably to prevent the Jingmu kingdom from causing trouble. This little girl was really meticulous. Yun Chujiu counted in a low voice, 1, 2, 3, go. Emperor Nan Xian and the others ran forward with all their might. What a joke. This was a matter of life and death. If they ran too slowly, they might be taken hostage by the Jingmu kingdom. Shang Liangxin and the soldiers of the Jingmu kingdom were eating and drinking. Before they could react, they saw several figures whooshing across the border. When they reacted, they heard the deafening slogan of the soldiers of the East Phoenix Kingdom, "Welcome, Your Majesty. Your Majesty is peerless in the world." Shang Liangxin's head buzzed. They didn't die. And they even safely passed through his defense line. It was over. Even if he didn't die this time, he would skin them alive. He looked at the food and wine on the table again and immediately kicked the table to the ground in anger. Damn it, no wonder the East Phoenix Kingdom sent spirit stones and food and wine all of a sudden. It turned out that the drunkard's intention wasn't in the wine. It was too sinister. He had the intention to capture Yun Chujiu and the others, but when he saw the tens of thousands of soldiers behind Yun Chujiu, he immediately stopped. Although their spiritual power was a little higher than theirs, they could not withstand the large number of people on the other side. If they went up with a few hundred people, they would simply be sending themselves to their deaths. Just as Shang Liangxin was so angry that he was about to vomit blood. He heard Empress Jiu say coldly, "General, please pass on our message to His Majesty Mu Xian. We are very satisfied with the reception this time. If there is an opportunity, we will visit His Majesty Mu Xian again." Shang Liangxin was so angry that he couldn't even speak. Then, he saw that the female emperor of Fenghua was surrounded by a large number of soldiers and quickly disappeared. Yun Chujiu and the others retreated to a place dozens of miles away from the border. Yun Chujiu signaled for them to stop moving forward. Yun Chujiu said very seriously, "The Jingmu kingdom will soon send troops to attack our East Phoenix kingdom, so we can only split our troops into 2 groups. One group will be deployed here to intercept the Jingmu kingdom's attack. The other group will gather all the superior forces of the 4 kingdoms and attack the other 6 vassal states one by one. We must end the battle as soon as possible, because we can't drag out the battle for too long along the border." Emperor Nan Xian and the other 2 had already boarded the pirate ship, so they could only listen to Yun Chujiu's arrangements. Emperor Nan Xian asked, "Then how do we divide the work? In order to express the sincerity of our East Phoenix kingdom, I will guard the border here. You guys go and attack the other 6 kingdoms. I believe that you will not disappoint me," Yun Chujiu said calmly. Emperor Nan Xian and the others did not expect Yun Chujiu to make such an arrangement. Even if they used their toes to think, they would know that the mission along the way was much more difficult than attacking the other 6 kingdoms. Moreover, the other group had a way out. If they were defeated, they would die. Emperor Nan Xian and the other 2 could not help but look at Yun Chujiu in a different light. This little girl was bold, but could she stop the attack of the Jingwu kingdom? After discussing the details, Emperor Nan Xian and the other 2 returned to their respective kingdoms. They arranged for their troops to gather on the way, trying to buy as much time as possible. On the other side, Shang Liangxin had no choice but to force himself to report the news to the Crown Prince, Jing Jiahong. Jing Jiahong was still leading his men to guard the entrance of the spirit-exterminating valley. He was very pleased with himself. He thought that 3 or 4 days had passed. Yun Chujiu and the others must have died. It was only a matter of time before the Jingwu kingdom annexed 10 vassal states. Therefore, when he received Shang Liang's voice transmission talisman, he was shocked and angry. He gnashed his teeth in hatred. He immediately turned back to Jing City and looked for Mu Xian to discuss the next step. Mu Xian had gathered the ministers to discuss. Now, he could only send out troops by force. After all, the East Feng Kingdom was no match for the Jing Mu Kingdom. Jing Jiahong personally received the order and rushed to the border with 50,000 soldiers. As soon as they reached the border, they received a piece of shocking news. The East Phoenix Kingdom, the South Dragon Kingdom, the West Martial Kingdom, and the North Xian Kingdom had actually joined forces to attack the Zhongmu Kingdom. What were they trying to do? Furthermore, it had only been 5 days since the female emperor and the others had escaped, yet they had already taken over the Zhongyu Kingdom. Could it be that they had planned this all along? Could it be that they wanted to contend with the Jingmu Kingdom? Or even annex the Jingmu Kingdom? On one hand, Jing Jiahong felt that this was an extremely ridiculous idea. How could a mere third-class country possibly have such an idea? However, on the other hand, he felt that this was the goal of the 4 countries of the East Phoenix Kingdom. Otherwise, why would they want to annex the Zhongyu Kingdom? Moreover, after they annexed Zhongyu, they did not withdraw their troops. Instead, they continued to attack Zhongyu's neighboring country, Liziu. Jing Mugwa had the intention to help the Liziu countries resist the 4-nation alliance. However, their Jing Mugwa only shared a border with the East Phoenix country. If they wanted to participate in the war, they had to break through the East Phoenix country's defense line. Although Jing Jiahong was shocked and angry, he felt that the 4 countries were extremely stupid. Their current behavior was like an egg hitting a stone. As long as he led the army to break through the defense line of the East Phoenix Kingdom, the 4 nations alliance would break down on its own. How many troops are stationed in the East Phoenix Kingdom? Who is the leader? Jing Jiahong asked. Shang Liangxin hurriedly said in an ingratiating manner, "Your Highness, your subordinate sent people to cross the border to investigate. Bai Li didn't find any troops stationed in the East Phoenix Kingdom. Could it be that they got the news that you led the army here and scared them away?" Jing Jiahong frowned. Could it be like this? The 4-nation alliance even dared to plot against their Jingmu Kingdom, so how could they be so cowardly? However, no matter what tricks they were playing, they were completely useless in front of absolute strength. In a mountain call 100 li away from the border, Prime Minister Sima said with a worried expression, "Your Majesty, the Jingmu Kingdom's crown prince has already arrived with 50,000 troops. What should we do next? Can we stop him?" Bai Li asked. Yun Chujiu took a few bites of the spirit fruit. "What are you afraid of? They have 50,000 troops, but we have 50,000 troops too." Prime Minister Sima was about to cry. The combat strength of the Jingmu Kingdom's 50,000 troops was much stronger than theirs. Their 50,000 troops were equivalent to their 150,000 troops, okay? Yun Chujiu seemed to have seen through Prime Minister Sima's thoughts. She smiled and said, "What are you afraid of? We can't beat them in the open, so we'll just attack." Dirty. My lord, do you think this is a fight between 2 men? How are we gonna do this? Know why I hide in this call inside? Yun Chujiu asked with a smile. Prime Minister Sima shook his head. Of course, he did not know why Yun Chujiu had hidden the army in this kernel. It was more than 100 li away from the border. Bai Li had no idea why Yun Chujiu had hidden the army in this kernel. Weren't the 2 countries fighting for every inch of land? Why did His Majesty retreat more than 100 miles without waiting for a fight? Could this battle still be fought? Yun Chujiu was still smiling. She pointed at the cliffs on both sides and said, "The reason why I retreated here is because this is the best place to attack. This place is both a no-fly zone and the best terrain for an ambush. When the 2 countries are fighting, they must have a strategic vision. They can't be calculative about the momentary gains and losses." Prime Minister Sima thought for a while and felt that what Yun Chujiu said made sense. However, he asked, "Your Majesty, then why are we staying in this call? Shouldn't we climb up the cliffs and ambush on both sides? And what should we use to attack? The cliffs are so high, so the spiritual power attack shouldn't be very effective." The smile on Yun Chujia's face became even brighter. "We didn't climb up the cliff before because the Jingmu kingdom would definitely send their spies to check if there were any ambushes on the cliffs on both sides. Now that their spies have finished their investigation, we can go up. As for the means of attack, didn't the South Dragon Kingdom give us a lot of talismans for our friendship? It's a gift for the people of the Jingmu kingdom." A friendly sponsor. Prime Minister Sima recalled the expression on Emperor Nanxian's face at that time. It could be described as being in excruciating pain. Prime Minister Sima heard Yun Chuzhou continue, "In addition, didn't I ask fifth brother to send over a lot of chili and pepper noodles? When the time comes, we can let the people of the Jingmu kingdom have a good taste." Prime Minister Sima imagined the sour and refreshing taste, and suddenly felt that the 50,000 troops of the Jingmu kingdom were not so scary anymore, because their emperor had a lot of bad ideas. "I'll bring some people up the cliff now. You arrange for General Sun to bring a group of people to hide at the end of the valley, in case a fish escaped the net and ran over. Tell him not to be so stubborn, dig some traps, make some trip wires, and do it the way you want. If he lets a person from the Jingmu kingdom escape, I will hold him accountable." Prime Minister Sima immediately informed General Sun and then watched a few soldiers who were good at climb to the top of the cliff. Yun Chuzhou frowned. "This speed is really too slow. By the time they climb up, it will be too late." Prime Minister Sima said weakly, "Your Majesty, after all, this cliff is very steep, and it is forbidden to fly here. To be able to do this with just your skills is already very good." Yun Chuzhou pouted, "This speed is not bad. Look at me." Just as Prime Minister Sima was puzzled, he saw His Majesty Feng Hua actually climb up the cliff. Prime Minister Sima was about to cry. If His Majesty fell down, wouldn't he die? Just as Prime Minister Sima was frowning, he stared in shock at His Majesty, who was like a monkey. In just a short while, he had surpassed the soldiers and climbed to the top of the cliff. Then, several ropes were hung down, signaling for everyone to pull them up. With the ropes, everyone climbed much faster. Then, Prime Minister Sima saw His Majesty climb down along the ropes and climb to the top of the cliff on the other side. Prime Minister Sima only had one thought in his mind. His Majesty was His Majesty. He was even better at climbing mountains than them. He had no choice but to admit defeat. Very soon, the people of the Four-Nation Alliance had set up an ambush on the mountaintops on both sides. Yun Chuzhou had even specially asked some of the soldiers with wood spirit roots to produce many vines to cover their bodies. This fellow said to Prime Minister Sima, who was a little nervous beside him, "Don't worry. Jing Mugua and that Jing Jiahong are very arrogant. They won't investigate a second time, so we will definitely win this first battle beautifully." Although Prime Minister Sima felt a little more at ease, he was still uncertain. Would this work? In less than 2 hours, the army of the Jing Mugua had marched over in a grand manner. Jing Jiahong looked at the valley in the distance and frowned. "General Shang, the valley ahead is the best place for an ambush. Are you sure that there are no people from the East Phoenix Kingdom on the cliffs on either side?" Shang Liangxin made a solemn promise. "Your Highness, I sent people to investigate less than 4 hours ago, but there wasn't a single person. This cliff is extremely steep. Even if the East Phoenix Kingdom wanted to set up defenses, it would be impossible for all of them to climb up within 4 hours, so it must be absolutely safe. They must have seen you bring the army here and fled in terror." Jing Jiahong estimated in his heart that it was indeed impossible to complete the defense in 4 hours. He raised his head and looked at the cliffs on both sides. There was nothing unusual with the dense vegetation. He thought that perhaps the people of the East Phoenix Kingdom had really been scared away by the army of the Jingmu Kingdom. They were simply unable to withstand a single blow. He waved his hand. Continue to advance. Although Jing Jiahong ordered the army to continue forward, he still had doubts and sent a team into the valley. Yun Chujiu was naturally not stupid enough to fall into the trap. She did not give the order to attack, and the four-country alliance army that was lying in ambush on both sides of the cliff remained where they were. Shang Liangxin was anxious to please Jing Jiahong, and he said obsequiously, "Your Highness, look, they have already reached the middle of the valley, and there are still no problems. There is obviously no ambush here. What bullshit four countries alliance army? When they heard your name, they must have been scared away." Jing Jiahong obviously liked these words. He waved his hand and let all the troops enter the valley. After walking for a while, nothing happened. Shang Liangxin said loudly, "Your Highness, I think we can take down the East Phoenix country in less than 3 days. We can take down 10 vassal countries in less than a month." Before Shang Liangxin finished his words, he heard a clear voice say, "I've seen shameless people, but this is the first time I've seen someone as shameless as you. You really deserve your name, you have no conscience." Shang Liangxin was startled. Why did this voice sound so familiar? Why did it sound like the female emperor of Fenghua? Moreover, it seemed to be coming from above the cliff. Was there an ambush? Before he could regain his senses, he saw countless gunny sacks being thrown down from the cliff. The soldiers of the Jingmu kingdom subconsciously dodged, but the 50,000-strong army had blocked the road in the valley, so there wasn't much room for them to dodge. Most of the big sacks hit the spiritual energy shield of the Jingmu kingdom soldiers, and some of them even hit the ground. In an instant, the chili and pepper noodles flew in all directions, and the soldiers who didn't manage to set up the spiritual energy shield choked and burst into tears. Even the soldiers who had set up the spiritual energy shield couldn't see clearly due to the flying powder. At this moment, countless talismans, rolling logs, and big rocks were thrown down toward the valley. As for the rolling logs and boulders, they were naturally provided by Yun Chujiu. Prime Minister Sima was dumbfounded by what he saw. Where did their majesty get so many rolling logs and boulders? How would he know that their Empress Jiu had the great void mystic realm? She could get as many boulders as she wanted. Although these boulders could not cause too much harm to cultivators, when thrown down from a high altitude, it was enough to make the army of the Jingmu kingdom suffer. The army of the Jingmu kingdom was really out of luck. There were too many of them, and they were all squeezed in the narrow and long valley. Their vision was blocked by the chili and pepper noodles. When they were in a panic and didn't know where to go, they were trampled again. For a moment, they were crying like ghosts and howling like wolves. They were in a very sorry state. Jing Jiahong was furious. He originally wanted to command the army to forcefully charge through the valley, but the attacks on both sides of the valley were too powerful, so he had no choice but to order them to retreat. The army of the Jingwu kingdom retreated to the entrance of the valley in a sorry state. Jing Jiahong counted the number of people, and in just a short while, thousands of people were killed and injured. It was a great humiliation. Shang Liangxin shrunk his neck and tried his best to reduce his presence. Unfortunately, Jing Jiahong's pair of sinister eyes still looked at him. "Is this what you meant by foolproof?" Shang Liangxin knelt on the ground. He cried bitterly. "Your Highness, I really sent people to investigate the cliffs on both sides. At that time, there really wasn't a single person. Your Highness, I know that I've made a huge mistake. Please give me another chance. I will definitely make up for it." Jing Jiahong wished he could slap Shang Liangxin to death. However, now was the time to use people. Moreover, Shang Liangxin was still quite familiar with the affairs of the East Phoenix country, therefore, he gritted his teeth. "I'll give you one chance. Think of a way to pass through this valley within 3 days. Otherwise, you'll have to pay with your life." Shang Liangxin hurriedly agreed and called the other generals to discuss countermeasures. General Shang, if we want to pass through this valley, we must first kill or drive away the four-country alliance army on both sides of the cliff. Otherwise, we have no way to pass through. Even if we barely pass through, we will suffer heavy casualties, a general said. What you said makes sense. It's just that the allied forces of the four countries have the geographical advantage. It's really too difficult for us to kill or drive them away. They killed us before we could climb up the cliff, said another general. For a moment, everyone fell silent. This valley was easy to defend but hard to attack. It was really too difficult to pass through. 2 days passed in a row, but the people of the Jingmu kingdom were still at a loss. Shang Liangxin was so anxious that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. If he still couldn't think of a way, the crown prince would really kill him. What should he do? On the morning of the third day, Shang Liangxin came to Jing Jiahong excitedly. Your Highness, Your Highness. I have a way to get through the valley. Jing Jiahong asked suspiciously, what way? Shang Liangxin said mysteriously, smoke attack. Smoke attack. That's right. Your Highness, let's use wet wood to create thick smoke. The rising smoke will definitely obstruct the vision of the four countries' allied forces. Moreover, this smoke goes up. We are at the bottom, so there won't be too much of a hindrance. At that time, they won't know whether we have passed through the valley or not. When they have used up most of their talismans and rolling wood, we will use the smoke to hide and pass through the valley, and continue to attack the East Phoenix Kingdom. As for these people, we don't need to care about them. Let His Majesty send another army to guard them. Sooner or later, they won't be able to endure it and will have to come down and surrender. Shang Liangxin said proudly. Jing Jiahong was stunned at first, and then said with praise, this idea is not bad. Gather everyone and discuss it. How did you come up with this idea? Shang Liangxin proudly said, Your Highness, to tell you the truth, this is a dream I had in my dream. I guess it's an unexpected surprise. Jing Jiahong nodded with satisfaction, if we can pass safely this time, I will definitely reward you handsomely. When Shang Liangxin heard this, he was instantly overjoyed. His dream was not in vain. Not only did he not have to worry about his life, but he was also going to be promoted and make a fortune. This was great. The generals of the Jingmu kingdom discussed and felt that Shang Liangxin's idea was not bad. Therefore, they immediately ordered the army to gather wet firewood in the surroundings, and then sent people to put the wet firewood in the valley. Prime Minister Sima stood on the edge of the cliff and saw the behavior of the Jingmu kingdom. He couldn't help but say worriedly, Your Majesty, it seems that the Jingmu kingdom wants to use smoke to attack. With the rising smoke, I'm afraid we will be in a passive position. Yun Chujia's eyes were as bright as the stars in the sky. She said with a smile, smoke attack is good. When the smoke rises, we will add some ingredients to it so that the smoke will turn into poisonous smoke. Prime Minister Sima was so shocked that he almost rolled off the cliff. Had their Majesty gone mad? The smoke was already blocking their vision, and it was choking them. She actually wanted to add some ingredients to turn into poisonous smoke. Was she crazy or stupid? Your Majesty, are you all right? Did you not rest well recently? Prime Minister Sima asked with a trembling voice. The smile on Yun Chujia's face became even brighter. This emperor is trying to beat them at their own game. Let's do it this way. Prime Minister Sima nodded repeatedly as he listened. He lit a candle in his heart for the Jingmu kingdom. You should just admit your bad luck when you meet His Majesty. The Jingmu kingdom spent an entire day and paid the price of hundreds of casualties. Finally, they spread wet firewood in the valley and lit them up one by one. Soon, thick smoke rose up. The violent coughs and curses of the allied forces of the four kingdoms could be heard from both sides of the cliff. There were also the sounds of talisman seals exploding and rolling logs falling. The army of the Jingmu kingdom retreated some distance, and they were under the smoke. Therefore, although they choked a little, they were much stronger than those above. Cough, cough, cough. Your Highness, don't you think my method is good? At this rate, the talisman seals of the allied forces of the 4 countries will be used up very soon. At that time, when we go over, there won't be any danger, Shang Liangxin said proudly while coughing. He was extremely pleased with himself. He had relied on a dream to solve his predicament. If word of this spread out in the future, it would be a beautiful story. Jing Jiahong also coughed a few times. However, when he thought about how the smoke on the lower level was so strong, the upper level would definitely feel even more uncomfortable. His heart instantly felt much better. In order to let the smoke continue, Shang Liangxin had paid the price of hundreds of lives to send people to add a lot of wet wood into it. Shang Liangxin felt a little dizzy when he was feeling pleased with himself. He thought that it might be the smoke, so he didn't take it to heart. However, his eyelids were getting heavier and heavier, and the spiritual power in his body was slowly dissipating. He finally realized that something was wrong. At the same time, Jing Jiahong and the others also realized something was wrong. This smoke is poisonous. It's the sleeping powder and the spirit-devouring powder. Quick, take the antidote. While the Jingwood Kingdom army was panicking, countless allied forces of the 4 kingdoms rushed out of the valley, shouting and shouting as they rushed toward them. Although the Jingwood Kingdom army had taken the antidote, it would take some time for the antidote to take effect, so their fighting strength was greatly reduced. For a moment, wails filled the field. Jing Jiahong gritted his teeth and said, "Retreat! Retreat!" The army of the Jingwood Kingdom immediately scattered like birds and beasts, rolling and crawling as they escaped. Yun Chuzhou didn't give the order to chase after them, because she knew that the effects of the medicine would pass very quickly. If she chased after them, it might not be worth it. Moreover, her goal was to stop the army of the Jingwood Kingdom. She just needed to delay them for a period of time. Yun Chuzhou got people to use water and sand to extinguish the wet firewood. Then, she continued to climb up the cliffs on both sides to guard them. The Jingwood Kingdom wouldn't be able to pass through this valley in a short period of time. Jing Jiahong led his army and fled for dozens of miles. When he saw that there were no pursuers behind him, he stopped. He counted the number of people and found that thousands more had been killed or injured. There were only 40,000 people left in the 50,000-strong army. Shang Liangxin's legs were a little weak. It was over. He was really dead this time. Jing Jiahong gave him a fierce kick. Is this your dream idea? It's really a fucking dream. You didn't do anything to the 4-Nation Alliance army, but poisoned our own people. Shang Liangxin immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. He kneeled a few steps and said, "Your Highness, this subordinate really didn't expect that the 4-Nation Alliance army would take the opportunity to poison us. They are really too sinister." Although Shang Liangxin spat out blood from the kick, he was relieved in his heart. It seemed that his life was saved. How could the 4-Nation Alliance army come up with such a sinister idea? Who came up with it? Jing Jiahong's face was very gloomy. He had really underestimated that female emperor of Zephyr. After these few days, he had already confirmed that the leader of the 4 countries' allied army stationed here was that female emperor of Zephyr, and that damned Yun Chuzhou. This bitch must have already planned to beat them at their own game. No wonder she didn't try her best to stop them when they were setting up the wet firewood. They must have taken the antidote beforehand and climbed down from the cliff under the cover of the thick fog. That was how they caught them off guard. Shang Liangxin saw that Jing Jiahong's expression was very ugly. He gathered his courage and said, "Your Highness, that female Emperor Fenghua is very cunning. What should we do next?" Jing Jiahong gritted his teeth. I will ask father to send more troops. Even if we have to pay a heavy price, we have to pass through this valley. That Yun Chujio may be cunning, but their talismans are limited. They can't last for more than a few days. Pan DN0VE1 Your Highness is wise. They definitely won't last more than a few days. Shang Liangxin echoed. As expected, 2 days later, another 50,000 troops of the Jingwood kingdom rushed over. Prime Minister Sima said with a sad face, Your Majesty, we don't have many talismans left, and we don't have much chili and pepper noodles left. If the Jingwood kingdom attacks us, I'm afraid we won't be able to last much longer. Yun Chujia's brows were tightly knitted. She was already lucky to be able to hold on for so many days. Now that the Jingmu kingdom army was pressing down on the border, if she couldn't think of any other way, she might really not be able to hold on. The Four-Nation Alliance army led by Emperor Nan Xian and the others had already conquered 3 vassal states. She would have to hold on for at least half a month before she could receive reinforcements. However, how could she withstand the 90,000 troops of the Jingmu kingdom? It was obvious that the Jingmu kingdom wanted to use their lives to attack. Not to mention that the Four-Nation Alliance army was short of resources. Even if they had enough talismans, they would not be able to stop the Jingmu kingdom army. Yun Chujio thought for a while, then gritted her teeth and said, Throw all the talismans in your hands and the burning vines and firewood. No matter what, we have to stop their attack tonight. Prime Minister Sima said with difficulty, Your Majesty, I'm afraid this won't have any effect. At most, it can only delay them for a few hours. A few hours is enough for us to retreat from here. We can't defend this place anymore. Let's retreat. Yun Chujio said in a deep voice. Retreat? Your Majesty, this is the easiest place to defend and the hardest place to attack. If we retreat, there won't be any terrain that is advantageous to us in the future. Prime Minister Sima felt that Yun Chujio had been too smart for her own good. Had she been scared silly by the army of the Jingwood kingdom? I have my own plans. Just do as I say. Yun Chujio didn't explain further and directly gave the order. Prime Minister Sima knew that their emperor was a man of his word, so he could only pass the order down. Thus, that night, when the army of the Jingwood kingdom attacked, the allied forces of the 4 countries didn't hold back anymore. They threw down wooden stones with talismans and burning branches and vines. The Jingwood kingdom army was blocked at the entrance of the valley. Jing Jiahong had no choice but to ask the army to stop attacking. He sneered. He didn't believe that the Four-Nation Alliance army could maintain such a strong defense until daybreak. They could definitely pass through the valley. The next morning, although the valley was still filled with smoke, the visibility was much higher when the sun came out. Under Jing Jiahong's order, the Jingwood kingdom army began to attack the valley. However, the crowd soon realized that something was wrong. Why were there no talismans on either side of the cliff? Jing Jiahong was shocked. Did that bitch come up with some evil plan again? Jing Jiahong immediately stopped the army and sent people to climb up the cliff to check. Very quickly, a soldier came over and reported, Your Highness, there is no one on either side of the cliff, but we found this. That soldier handed a large piece of white cloth to Jing Jiahong. Jing Jiahong unfolded the white cloth and saw the words on it, Idiot, if you are not satisfied, come and fight. I will wait for you in front. Jing Jiahong was so angry that he tore the white cloth into pieces. That damn bitch. It was really detestable to the extreme. Full speed ahead. Give chase. Not long after, a scream came from the front. Jing Jiahong frowned. What's going on? Shang Liangxin checked it. He said angrily, Your Highness, many soldiers in the front fell into a big trap. Not only were there sharp knives stuck in it, but the knives were also smeared with poison. This woman, the female emperor of Fenghua, is really too mean. Jing Jiahong gritted his teeth and said, "Tell everyone to pay attention and continue to chase after them." Following that, the army of the Jingmu kingdom encountered over 100 traps and tripwires. Although they were prepared later and didn't suffer many casualties, they still slowed down their speed. Finally, they saw a city in the distance. It was Jialing City that was blocking the army's path. Jialing City had already activated its no-fly formation, so if the Jingwood country army wanted to pass through, they could only take it down. "Your Highness, although Jialing City is the only way to the East Phoenix country's capital city, as far as I know, its defenses aren't that strong, so we can take it down quickly," Shan Liangxin said. Jing Jiahong nodded. Just as he was about to let the Jingwood country army attack the city, he saw a person appear from the top of the city wall. He was dressed in red and had a smile on his face. Who else could it be but Yun Chuzhou? "Hey! Idiot, we have been waiting for you for a long time. Come over and attack the city. Let's fight to the death." Yun Chuzhou smiled and hooked her finger. Jing Jiahong stared at Yun Chuzhou coldly and said, "What are you playing at? Yun Chuzhou, I advise you to surrender as soon as possible. If you surrender, I can let bygones be bygones for your crimes, and I can also ensure that you don't have to worry about food and clothing. If you continue to be stubborn, not only you, but everyone in the East Phoenix Kingdom will die." TSK, that's a nice way of saying it. Do you have no shame? Do you think you scum can catch me? Come on, attack the city. Aren't you powerful? I want to see how powerful you are. Don't worry about attacking the city. This time, I promise you that there is no conspiracy. Didn't you see it? There is only me on the city wall. You just need to charge over and win," Yun Chuzhou said with a smile. At this moment, Prime Minister Sima, who was crouching behind Yun Chuzhou, kept wiping the cold sweat on his head. Oh God! Their emperor must have gone crazy. There were only him and his majesty in Jialing City. Once the army of the Jingwood kingdom attacked the city, they would definitely die. This was simply courting death. When Shan Liangxin heard Yun Chuzhou's words, his heart moved. This was a good opportunity for him to make up for his mistakes. Thus, he hurriedly said to Jing Jiahong, "Your Highness, this bitch has always been scheming. She must have arranged some trap for us. We can't fall for it." Jing Jiahong nodded. This Yun Chuzhou was obviously abnormal. She wanted him to attack the city so urgently. There must be something fishy going on. He had to be careful to avoid repeating the same mistake. While Jing Jiahong was deep in thought, he heard Yun Chuzhou continue to shout, "Hey! What are you waiting for? Come and attack the city." Jing Jiahong sneered, "Yun Chuzhou, do you think I can't see through your trick? You must have thought of some insidious way to trick me. Don't even think about it. You're talking nonsense. What tricks can I have? I just want to fight to the death with you. Come on, if you don't dare to attack the city, you'll be a turtle son of a bitch." Prime Minister Sima was about to cry. "Your Majesty! Do you really want to die so badly? With your scolding, it would be a ghost if Jing Jiahong didn't attack the city." Prime Minister Sima was thinking about it when he was kicked by Yun Chuzhou. Prime Minister Sima wasn't prepared and immediately cried out in surprise. Yun Chuzhou said dryly, "Ah, I was the one who called. I am the only one in Jialing City." Jing Jiahong laughed coldly in his heart. Did she think he was an idiot? He had clearly heard the voice of a man. This damned girl had indeed set up a trap. Luckily, he did not act rashly. When Jing Jiahong thought of this, he ordered the army to station at the same spot. On the other side, Yun Chuzhou, who was on top of the city wall, provoked him a few more times. Seeing that Jing Jiahong was determined not to attack the city, she sat at the base of the city wall and whispered to the bitter-faced Prime Minister Sima, "I'm sorry. If you hadn't called out, Jing Jiahong, that idiot, might not have fallen for it. Prime Minister Sima secretly looked into the distance. He was surprised to find that the Jing country's army didn't attack the city. What the hell? Your Majesty, why didn't the Jing kingdom attack the city? Because I used the empty city strategy. Don't worry, Jing Jiahong had suffered a great loss before. He won't attack the city rashly this time. Yun Chujiu said with a smile. Prime Minister Sima didn't know the story of the empty city strategy, but he had guessed most of it now. He thought to himself, only this ancestor dared to use such a strategy. This was simply gambling with his life. Yun Chujiu summoned the giant rabbit and had it keep an eye on the movements outside the city. Then, she sat on the city wall and pondered. Previously, the nightmare beast had weaved a dream for Emperor Nan Xian and the others in the Pixiu Palace, and it had used up a lot of spiritual power. Previously, she had already used up the last bit of spiritual power to weave a dream for Shang Liangxin. Otherwise, she could have asked it to weave another dream for Jing Jiahong to enhance the effect of the empty city stratagem. Yun Chujiu knew that this empty city plan could only fool the army of the Jing kingdom for 2 days at most. When that time came, the Jing kingdom would be unable to hold back and would definitely send the vanguard troops to probe, and they would definitely be exposed. However, even if it was 2 days, it should be enough for her to carry out the next step of her plan. On the other side, the generals of the Jing kingdom were in a heated debate. Some who advocated attacking the city thought that Yun Chujiu was just deliberately mystifying. Even if there was an ambush, it wouldn't be able to do anything to them. There were also some who held reservations. They felt that Yun Chujiu had many tricks up her sleeves. How could she let them attack the city for no reason? Perhaps she had already prepared a trap and was just waiting for them to enter. In the end, there was no final conclusion to the debate. Jing Jiahong had no choice but to adjourn the meeting and decided to talk about it the next day. The next day, there was still no conclusion to the discussion. Just as Jing Jiahong was about to send the advance troops to investigate, he received a report, Your Highness, there is suddenly a lot of red liquid on the city wall of Jialing City. It seems to be blood. Hearing that, Jing Jiahong walked out of the tent and looked up. He saw that the originally green and gray city wall was seeping out a lot of red liquid. It looked extremely terrifying. Shang Liangxin slapped his thigh. Your Majesty, this must be some kind of evil formation. I heard that some evil formations must be supplemented with human blood or demonic beast blood. That bitch must have set up some kind of evil formation in Jialing City. When everyone heard Shang Liangxin's words, they instantly felt their hair stand on end. The city walls were covered in blood. How many people and demonic beasts had they killed? No wonder only Yun Chujiu came out. The rest of the people couldn't have been killed by her, right? Such an evil formation must be very powerful. Fortunately, they didn't attack rashly. Jing Jiahong looked a little grim. He immediately took out the sound transmission talisman and asked Emperor Mu Xian to help him find out what kind of evil formation this was and how to break it. Empress Jiu, who was sitting on the city wall, was holding a basin and continuing to pour the red liquid on the city wall. As she poured it, she mumbled, "This vermilion fruit juice is the best. What a pity." Prime Minister Sima followed suit and poured the juice on the city wall with a dumbfounded expression. He felt that their Majesty was most likely not in good spirits. Why did this fine fruit juice have to be poured on the city wall? Wouldn't it be better to keep it for drinking? He couldn't hold it in any longer and asked, "Your Majesty, why did you do this?" "Of course, it's to increase the sense of mystery. Otherwise, how could I deceive the 90,000 soldiers of the Jingmu kingdom with just my dry hands?" Yun Chujiu said painfully as she poured the juice on the city wall. Mystique? Could this thing work? Although Prime Minister Sima was skeptical, he still continued to help Yun Chujiu splash water on the city wall. Ever since he followed the emperor, his days were getting more and more exciting. His old heart. Since Jing Jiahong didn't find out what kind of evil formation this was, he temporarily gave up the idea of letting the vanguard team investigate. He Xinjiu finally caught her breath for the time being. The guy counted with his fingers and thought about the next step. He felt that it would be best to delay it for another 2 days. Therefore, he smeared a few drops of fruit juice on his face and some on his hands before he showed his face on the city wall. Hey! The grandsons of the Jingmu kingdom, come on! Attack the city! Are you afraid of me? Jing Jiahong, you are the crown prince of a country. How dare you be as timid as a mouse? Come and attack the city if you have the ability. Jing Jiahong, do you want to be a coward all the time? Come on. I happen to want to kill someone right now. Jing Jiahong listened to Yun Chujia's words and saw that her face seemed to be splashed with human blood. He suddenly felt a chill in his heart. She urged them to attack the city so anxiously. Could it be that she wanted to use their blood to continue setting up the evil formation? The more Jing Jiahong thought about it, the more he felt that Yun Chujio must have set up a terrifying evil formation in Jialing City. He could not give the order to attack until he found a way to break the evil formation. Yun Chujio cursed for a while. When she saw that it was almost time, she continued to sit on the city wall and eat the spiritual fruits leisurely. The next day, Jing Jiahong received a message from Mu Xian. It was basically saying that even if it was an evil formation, all the blood should be injected into the blood pool. Therefore, even if there was fresh blood on the city wall, it should not be an evil formation. It was very likely that the enemy had set up a suspicious formation. Although Jing Jiahong was still skeptical, he still ordered Shang Liangxin to lead a part of the vanguard to investigate. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes when she saw someone coming to attack the city. She jumped down the city wall and opened the city gate. Then, she stood at the city gate and said with a smile, "Come on. You don't have to attack the city anymore. Just come in. Prime Minister Sima, Your Majesty, I haven't lived long enough. I don't want to die." Shang Liangxin's legs went weak when he saw this. The corner of that stinky girl's mouth and hands were covered in blood. Moreover, she even opened the city gate. Was this really a feint? How was this possible? Was she not afraid of death? Therefore, there must be something fishy going on. Even if there was no evil formation, there must be something fishy going on. Shang Liangxin was the leader. If he did not move, the soldiers behind him naturally would not continue moving forward. They were stuck in a stalemate. Yun Chujio frowned. Why aren't you guys moving? Come on. The door is open. Why aren't you guys coming in? Are you guys out of your minds? Shang Liangxin thought to himself, if he went in, he would be out of his mind. Yun Chujio spread her hands. It's fine if you don't go in. What a bunch of cowards. As Yun Chujio spoke, her figure flashed and disappeared from everyone's sight. No one knew if she was hiding behind the door or where she went. In any case, she had disappeared without a trace. Shang Liangxin's heart was in a mess. He let the soldiers behind him go forward first while he hid behind them. He was prepared to run back if the situation did not go well. Although the soldiers in front of him secretly hated Shang Liangxin's shamelessness, it was difficult to disobey military orders, so they could only continue forward. Just as they reached the city gate, a ball of flame sprayed at them, instantly burning the people in front of them into ashes. Shang Liangxin and the rest of the soldiers were so scared that they immediately wet their pants. They were all cultivators, how could they be so easily burned into ashes by a ball of flame? If this wasn't an evil formation, then what was it? Otherwise, how could there be such an overbearing flame? Shang Liangxin brought his men back to the main camp, rolling and crawling. Jing Jiahong also saw what had just happened clearly, and his heart was beating a little faster. What was that flame? Why was it so powerful? Was it the nirvana fire of the phoenix? Was Yun Chuzhou setting up the evil formation to summon the nirvana fire? The more Jing Jiahong thought about it, the more he felt a chill in his heart. The power of the fire was too terrifying. He had no choice but to send another message to Emperor Mu Xian. On the other side, Prime Minister Sima, who was hiding behind the city gate, looked at the fat, ball-like, fire-spitting crow beside His Majesty with a dumbfounded expression. When did the fire-breathing crow become so powerful? Was it bullying him because he was uneducated? Yun Chuzhou calmly put away the Xiao Hanio and said in a low voice, "It's about time. Let's retreat." Prime Minister Sima had been waiting for this sentence. He did not care whether it was the fire-breathing crow or something else. He immediately followed He Xinjiu and fled. It was not until the next day that Jing Jiahong received the news from Emperor Mu Xian. According to the records, the nirvana fire was much more powerful than he had described. Therefore, it should not be the nirvana fire. In addition, the Four-Nation Alliance army had already conquered 4 vassal states. If they did not speed up the process, Jingmu Kingdom would be in a passive position and he would be ordered to attack immediately. Jing Jiahong had no choice but to order the army to attack. When the vanguard troops reached the city gate of Jialing City, they felt their hearts tremble. However, they were surprised to find that nothing had happened. When they entered Jialing City, they found that there was no one there. Not to mention the Four-Nation Alliance army, even the civilians were gone. There was only an empty city. At the same time, some soldiers discovered that the red liquid on the city wall was not human blood, but fruit juice. When the troops of the Jingmu Kingdom arrived at the North City Gate, they saw a white cloth hanging on it. On it were 3 crooked words, "Empty City Plan." Jing Jiahong looked at the 3 crooked words and was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Even if he didn't know the story of the empty city stratagem, he now knew the meaning of the empty city stratagem. He actually let that stinky girl be intimidated by an empty city and was forcibly delayed for 3 days. It was a great humiliation. The other generals of the Jingwood Kingdom also felt embarrassed. They thought they were good at fighting, but they were actually played by a little girl. It would make people laugh out loud. Chase! Chase! That little girl will not run far. Jing Jiahong gnashed his teeth and said. The army of the Jingwood Kingdom followed closely. After walking for a day and a night, they saw a city in front of them. Your Highness, Puyang City is in front of us. The city of Puyang City is twice as big as Jialing City, and the city walls are strong. It's easy to defend but hard to attack, said Shang Liangxin. Before Jing Jiahong could say anything, a small head popped out from the top of the wall of Puyang City and said with a smile, Hey! Idiots, come on, attack. There's really no one here. I'm the only one left. Jing Jiahong was furious and said with a ferocious expression, Bitch! Do you think you can play the same trick twice? Attack the city. Puyang City must be empty again. Yun Chuzhou smiled even more brightly, Idiot, you're wrong. I'm full of people. I've set up a trap for you to jump into. Do you dare to attack the city? Humph. Bitch. Do you really think I'm an idiot? You're just setting up a trap to stall for time. You're delusional. I'll definitely kill you today. Shang Liangxin quickly echoed, Your Highness, you're right. This bitch actually wants to use the same trick again. She's absolutely stupid. I'll bring my men to attack the city and capture that bitch. You can do whatever you want with her. Jing Jiahong nodded and let Shang Liangxin bring 10,000 men to attack the city. Shang Liangxin immediately brought his men to the foot of Puyang City aggressively. He calculated in his heart that this was a great opportunity for him to make up for his mistakes. As long as he could attack the city and capture that wretched Yun Chuzhou, the crown prince would definitely let bygones be bygones. He might even reward him. Just as Shang Liangxin was feeling pleased with himself, he heard a series of miserable screams from the soldiers charging at the front. He took a closer look and saw that a long, deep pit had collapsed in front of him. The pit was filled with sharp blades, and the surface of the pit was flickering with a cold blue light. It was obvious that the pit had been poisoned. Before Shang Liangxin could react, countless soldiers appeared on the top of the wall. Poisonous arrows and talismans were shot at him one after another. The soldiers of the Jingmu kingdom were once again wailing like ghosts and howling like wolves. Shang Liangxin's head buzzed. Damn it, he had been tricked again. It turned out that this time, it was not an empty city. That wretched girl had deliberately lured them to attack the city. It was too damn damaging. More than 1,000 people had died in the traps in front of them, and more than 1,000 people had died in the poison arrows and talismans this round. Before anything happened, 2,000 to 3,000 people had died. It was simply a cowardly death. Shang Liangxin did not dare to give the order for the soldiers to continue charging forward because they were still some distance away from the city wall. Who knew if there were any traps dug down there? If they charged forward, wouldn't they be sending themselves to their deaths? However, at their current position, there was no way for them to attack the four-country alliance army standing on top of the city wall. They were simply sitting ducks. With no other choice, Shang Liangxin had no choice but to retreat with the remaining few thousand men. Jing Jiahong's face was very gloomy. He was so angry that he gritted his teeth. This Yun Chujiu was as cunning as a fox. He didn't know which of her words were true and which were false. Your Highness, there are probably traps with poisonous knives under the city wall. Yun Chujiu probably delayed us to set up these traps. Our priority now is to fill up those traps. Otherwise, we won't be able to attack the city, said a general. Jing Jiahong was silent for a long while with a gloomy face. Then he said, well, do as you say. Well, fill up the traps as soon as possible. After filling up the traps, we must take down Puyang city within a day. Yun Chujiu hid behind the city wall and looked out. Prime Minister Sima, who was standing behind her, now had a great admiration for their emperor. With one mouth, His Majesty kept the 90,000-strong army of Jingmu out of the empty city and dragged them out for 3 days. Now His Majesty has carelessly deceived and caused the death and injury of thousands of the army of the Itoki kingdom. Their Majesty is inhuman. Prime Minister Sima saw the soldiers of the Itsuki kingdom preparing to fill in the traps. Your Majesty, he said worriedly, if the people of the Itsuki kingdom fill up the traps, they will definitely attack the city by force. We may not be able to hold out for long. A cunning gleam flashed in the eyes of He Xinjiu, who was not a human being. Pass down the order. Once the soldiers of the Jingmu kingdom start to clear the traps, give me poison arrows, talismans, and all of them. Also, tell the masters of refining to work overtime to hurry up the production of arrows. Don't worry about the refined iron ores. You can have as many as you want. Prime Minister Sima nodded. Your Majesty, even so, I'm afraid that we won't be able to delay for long. At most, the traps will be cleared in 1 day. I have my own arrangements. Otherwise, wouldn't I have wasted 3 days of the Sky City plan? Yun Chujiu said faintly. Prime Minister Sima really didn't understand what Yun Chujiu was up to. Seeing that she was unwilling to reveal it, he could only go down and arrange for the arrows. The soldiers of the Jingmu kingdom began to dig the soil around them. Then, they braved the poisonous arrows of the allied forces of the 4 kingdoms and began to fill the traps. As long as the traps were filled up, the poisonous blades in the traps would naturally pose no threat to them. Finally, after half a day, the soldiers of the Jingwu kingdom filled up the traps at the cost of thousands of casualties. Jing Jiahong said coldly, attack the city. Before the soldiers of the Jingwu kingdom could reach the bottom of the city wall, another large area collapsed. The inside was still full of poisonous blades, and thousands more people were killed or injured. Jing Jiahong gnashed his teeth in anger. Fill it up. Continue to fill it up. After another half a day, the collapse near the city wall had finally been filled up. The army of the Jing Kingdom rushed toward the city wall in a mighty manner. Prime Minister Sima kept wiping the cold sweat on his head. Your Majesty, according to this situation, we can only defend for another day at most. You still have to make plans as soon as possible. Yun Chuzhou said with a smile, what are you afraid of? I was worried that they wouldn't rush over. Prime Minister Sima felt that this inhuman emperor was most likely crazy this time. She was actually hoping for the army of the Jing Kingdom to attack the city. Wasn't this courting death? Jing Jiahong saw that the army had already approached the city wall. He sneered at Yun Chuzhou who was on the city wall, bitch, your death date is coming soon. Attack the city. Yun Chuzhou smiled at him brilliantly, idiot, why don't you learn your lesson? Did you think that my trap would be so simple? Jing Jiahong didn't quite understand what Yun Chuzhou meant. What did this bitch mean? The trap had been filled up, what else couldn't be simple? Just as Jing Jiahong was puzzled, he heard a rumbling sound, followed by the wailing of the Jing Mu soldiers. Jing Jiahong looked up and saw that the trap that had been filled up had collapsed again, and it was much deeper than before. It was even less than the height of a person. Not only that, the Four-Nation Alliance army on the city wall began to throw firewood soaked in vegetable oil into the deep pit, and then shot into the rocket. Instantly, the miserable howls in the deep pit became even more tragic. The army of Jing Kingdom retreated back in a sorry state again. Jing Jiahong counted the number of people. The 90,000-man army had not officially engaged yet, but nearly 20,000 people had already been killed or injured. Damn it! Those traps had already been filled up, so why did they collapse? And more poisonous blades came out from them. How did Yun Chuzhou do it? Prime Minister Sima also had the same question. He opened his mouth wide and only recovered after a long while. Then, he asked, Your Majesty, how did you do it? Yun Chuzhou did not hide it. It's very simple. I ordered people to make 2 layers of traps. The second layer of the traps was covered with quicksand. When the army of the Jing Kingdom attacked, I ordered people to destroy the barriers. After the quicksand flowed away, the traps would naturally collapse. Prime Minister Sima was stunned and did not speak for a long time. Your Majesty, how did you know about this method? The emperors or rich people in the secular world are afraid of people robbing their tombs after they die. Some people would set up quicksand tombs. I only modified it slightly. Prime Minister Sima nodded in a daze. How could this work? Alright, it was the best way to describe their emperor. Prime Minister Sima looked at the 10-foot deep trap outside and heaved a sigh of relief. With such a deep trap, the Jing Kingdom would have to fill it for at least a day and a night. They could take a breather. The inside of the Jing country's tent was dead silent. They had been played by Yun Chuzhou time and time again. If they didn't speed up the process, the Four-Nation Alliance army would swallow up the 6 vassal countries. At that time, the Jing country would be in a passive position. Jing Jiahong looked at the crowd with a cold expression. What suggestions do you have? Your Highness, now that we have reached this point, we can only continue to fill up the traps and attack the city. Yun Chuzhou only relies on these traps. As long as we fill up the traps, they won't have much resistance, a general said. That's right, Yun Chuzhou is only good at scheming. In terms of absolute strength, the 4-country alliance army is definitely not our match. Hence, Your Highness, you don't have to worry too much. We can fill up the traps by tomorrow night. At that time, we can take advantage of the night to attack the city. Puyang City is just a small place. As long as there are no traps, we can take it down in half a day. Seeing that everyone had the same opinion, Jing Jiahong ordered to continue filling up the traps. On the evening of the next day, the Jingwood kingdom finally filled up the traps and began to attack the city. In an instant, the shouts and shouts shook the sky. The soldiers of the Jingwood kingdom were full of energy. They had never been so cowardly before. Many people had died before they even had a face-to-face confrontation. This was a great humiliation. Although the allied forces of the four countries were constantly attacking with poison arrows or spiritual power, the Jingmu kingdom was coming at them aggressively. Moreover, their spiritual power was higher than the allied forces of the four countries. Therefore, someone quickly climbed up to half the height of the city wall. Seeing how fierce the army of the Jingmu kingdom was, Prime Minister Sima hurriedly pulled off a few strands of his beard and said, "Your Majesty, if this goes on, Puyang City will fall before daybreak. Get someone to pour the rapeseed oil on the city wall. Wait until the people of the Jingmu kingdom are also contaminated with the rapeseed oil, then fire the rockets," Yun Chujio said coldly. Her eyes were cold and indifferent. Even if she was unwilling to use these sinister methods, at this moment, it was either one of them or the other. In the face of war, human lives and kindness were worthless. After the city wall was poured with rapeseed oil, the soldiers of the Jingwood kingdom had no way to continue climbing with their bare hands, and they all slid down to the ground. Immediately after, the allied forces of the four countries started to fire rockets, and there was another wave of miserable howls. Use the ladder. We must take down Puyang City today. Jing Jiahong's eyes were red. No matter what price they had to pay today, they had to take down Puyang City. As time passed, the allied forces of the four countries were on the verge of being defeated. After all, the Jingwood kingdom had the advantage in numbers and spiritual power. Under the cover of the spiritual power attacks, some soldiers climbed up the ladder to the top of the city wall. Although they were soon killed by the allied forces of the four countries, if this continued, Puyang City would be in danger. Jing Jiahong saw the soldiers of the Jingwood kingdom climbing up the city wall continuously, and a ferocious look appeared on his face. Yun Chujio, your time of death has come. After a night of intense battle, the sun had slowly risen. Yun Chujio felt a chill in her heart. A small city like Puyang City did not have a protective formation, so could they only retreat? Pan the N0VE1 If they retreated now, the four-country alliance army might fall into a disadvantageous position, and the consequences would be unimaginable. However, if they did not retreat, what could they do? At this moment, Yun Chujio caught a glimpse of a white figure flying toward them from afar. Yun Chujio was shocked. Puyang City had already activated its no-fly formation. Why was the person still able to fly on his sword? Yun Chujio looked at the person again and could not help but be stunned. Her heart was beating rapidly. Was it a gigolo? He had broken the ice seal. Was he here to look for her? At this moment, the others also noticed the person and were very surprised. It was clearly forbidden to fly here. How could this person be able to fly on his sword? Finally, the man in white landed on the city wall. Everyone subconsciously stopped moving. Although the man didn't speak or move, just standing there made people unable to feel the slightest bit of disobedience. Jing Jiahong looked at the man who looked like a god. Other than fear, he was also a bit jealous. He gritted his teeth and cupped his hands. Who are you? This is the battlefield between our Jingmu country and the four countries. If you are just passing by, please leave. Before the man in white could say anything, Yun Chujio took a few steps forward and hugged the man in white while crying. She wanted to say something, but she could not. The man in white froze. He raised his hand as if he wanted to push Yun Chujio away. However, he raised his hand and retracted it. When Jing Jiahong saw this, he immediately understood that this white-robed man was that bitch's lover. That damn bitch. Previously, he had said that the divine phoenix would not allow her to marry, but now, she was openly hugging him. She really had no sense of shame. You're tuning into the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.